Good evening. It is Wednesday, August the 22nd, about 6:20 p.m. This is meteorologist Shay Gibson of Leading Edge Weather and Sail Flow, bringing you a forecast update for CORA's Savannah Cup 2023. This is the rescheduled one, and so it is going to be this Friday, and things are looking pretty good so far. I think we're going to have a decent amount of wind to go for the race. So sorry, my voice is still a little scratchy, still fighting off a little bit of laryngitis, so I'm having to talk a little bit lower than normal. But let's take a look at the website here, and here's your August events for the Summer Series and the Savannah Cup Skippers meeting again tomorrow night, 6:30 p.m. I will be there to give you a final forecast, and we'll go from that point. So let's just take a quick look at the WPC surface map as we get into Thursday night. We have this ridge, the very ridge right now that is sending us this east-northeast to east wedge across our coast. It definitely has cooled things down, giving us a little taste of fall. But the ridge axis is going to continue to slide down the coast, which means we have an easterly flow through it, and then also becoming a little bit more east-southeast into the coast as we get into Friday morning. So that's going to be the name of the game. We're going to be I'm going to be really watching this warm front right here, and if this warm front definitely extends offshore, it cuts off a lot of that flow. It really you end up with a south flow below it, and that's what we're looking for is a southerly flow. So it looks like as we go forward, that warm front does extend, at least for what the immediate forecasting is showing for the WPC surface map. And then what we end up with is we have a competing high. We have an Atlantic high pressure here, and we have an inland continental high pressure here. Well, this is going to try to do a number like this in the morning, Friday morning. We may have a northwest flow, eventually becoming south-southeast or south in the afternoon as the Atlantic Ridge by default takes over and becomes the dominant player on the field. So that's Friday morning. As you get into Friday afternoon, we do see some troughing developing. So this is like a prefrontal trough, this is actually a good thing for us. It may trigger a few afternoon thunderstorms. It doesn't look like there's a lot of moisture out ahead of this next cold front that's diagonally sagging into the region. That's going to turn winds a little bit more south-southwest to southwest at nighttime as it drapes down into the area throughout the day and into the night. So uh, this is Saturday morning early. It looks like it stalls over North Carolina and the Appalachians. So at some point, it's not going to quite make it to South Carolina. Like this front, it's going to eventually just sort of fizzle and meander a bit for a few days, which may bring a little bit of unsettled weather as we get into later Saturday and into Sunday. But either way, watching this trough, this is called an inland trough. If it's a little higher up in the state, called a Piedmont trough, and then we have a lee side trough, so on and so forth. So all the different kinds of trough, and we even say lee side for the coast. It could be lee side of the coast and not just the mountains. But either way, that should contribute to at least some modest flow because our synoptic flow is going to be rather light, this high pressure off the coastline. Winds are going to be coming in. Synoptic flow about 4 to 8 knots. With the troughing, we could get up to about 10 to 12 knots, and so that's what I'm betting for by late Friday afternoon. If we take a look at Tempest One map here, I'm just going to pick a point. We'll just do the Fort Sumter Front Range light for Friday as we get into, let's let that run. So Friday afternoon, lots of model agreement by in the daytime where we see this sort of easterly flow Thursday starting to round off southerly as we get into Friday. So by 2 p.m., looking at a pretty steady increase. The HRRR now going up by 2 o'clock p.m. The NAM3 may start to go up with that. I think we're going to be able to get about 10 to 14 knots by the end of the day with those sea breezes. So we could be looking at 180 to 109 degree wind at that point where we start to get more into a typical sea breeze south-southwesterly, which could be even up to 200 degrees. So we'll just have to watch to see how the winds are oscillating, but it looks like a pretty good start in the afternoon for the most part, where we're near or just above 10 knots, and then holding low teens and mid-teens peaks through the afternoon and into the evening. So with that said, things look pretty good for the start there. Now we get offshore. I'm just going to take the Corp buoy 18 miles out, right? So this is just another point of reference offshore as we get through the jetties and down, start heading down the rum line, and we get towards. Let's see if we can get this to populate. There we go. As we look into Friday night, what we're seeing is some stronger winds offshore, and I tend to think after the sun goes down, the winds start to become a little bit more southwest, right? And we're showing that a little bit later in the modeling. But that's due to nocturnal jetting. And I think the nocturnal jetting phase, I think there'll be enough heat on Friday as we go back up. You know, we're into the 90s now. We're going to continue to go up into the 90s again and peaking out Saturday and Sunday. We're going to have another hot weekend ahead. But either way, that means latent heat aloft is trapped, and we end up with that inversion. We end up with that southwest nocturnal jetting. I think that's going to probably start a little earlier in the nighttime, where we're showing 13 to 17 knots. I do think offshore we have potential for 15 to 19. I would prepare yourselves Friday night, sometime after 8 or 9 o'clock. If the sea breeze doesn't meet it first into that 14 to 18 knot range at dusk at 6 to 7 p.m., if we're not seeing that nocturnal jet turning on just yet, we may wait until about 9 or 10 before we see that surge start to come up, especially with a lot of you will be well offshore through the jetties. And that's going to be the telltale marker is if we have a strong nocturnal jetting phase that's born out of the sea breeze late afternoon, evening, and it just transitions right on through, then we're going to continue that trend right through the night. If not, there may be a little bit of a lull and then come back up again in the evening. As we go through, at some point during the night, that nocturnal jet is going to burn off. Whether or not it's at or before sunrise, it's usually going to be sometime between, I'd say about 2:30 a.m. and 5 a.m. This may dump. We may see the nocturnal jet completely dump and winds become very light from the west at some point early Saturday morning before the sea breeze picks back up again. So let's not fully trust the models yet on this southwest nocturnal jet bleeding all the way through into the sunlight hours. I'll have a little bit more about that tomorrow night during the skippers meeting, but I think there's a little bit of a disconnect there. I don't think we're going to see this big full connection from pre-sunset to after sunset. I think we're going to see those winds dump, turn light west, and then maybe start to fill in with that sea breeze a little bit later in the morning. So hopefully most of you guys will be done down to Savannah by that point, and you won't have to deal with it. Looking at the nearshore wave prediction, just going to run this forward. For the direction of the swell, at least you're going to see that it's going to be more of an east-southeast swell, probably around 6 to 7 second period, but we're going to keep that direction of swell coming in the whole time. That's what the nearshore or the NWPS is showing. Looking at the particular wave buoy, we go to the forecast for it. We're seeing that the waves are going to be starting to come down after tomorrow. After this northeast wedge, we've seen some higher waves out there, up to 6 to 7 feet, right? And peaking. And now they're starting to come back down and normalize as we get into tonight and into tomorrow. We're going to see the waves start to slowly come down and bottom out around 3 feet. So I think we'll still be around 3 feet as we get into Friday afternoon, Friday night as we get offshore. Our period is going to be right around 7 to 8 seconds, maybe a little bit higher by Saturday morning, but I do think we're going to continue to see the about right around 3 to 4. Well, I wouldn't say 3 feet. 3 feet of swell at about 8 seconds. That's what I'm going to be calling for. Wave direction again, east southeast, right at 100 degrees, if not a little bit more than that. You may start to bend or veer just a little bit more southeast throughout that 12 or 14-hour period from Friday night to Saturday morning. And so that's going to be the wave call. If we look at air temperatures, of course, Friday going up to 96, peaking out Saturday 98 degrees. So a lot of heat. And that heat is exactly why I think that nocturnal jetting is going to be a little bit higher than what the models are showing. So instead of that 13 to 17, I'm calling 15 to 19 with maybe some gusts to mid 20s offshore. So just be prepared for that. As far as moon phases go, we'll be in a first quarter moon heading towards that waxing gibbous. So the tides won't be so much of an issue, especially with those winds being in that direction. It won't be like a building east-northeast or east wedge like we're seeing with a higher tide. It'll be more normalized on that level. And the GFS for Franklin, in case you're worried, we're not really getting any swell from that. Franklin's going to kind of pull through Hispaniola, meander about, and re-strengthen. It looks like it may re-strengthen while heading north. And we may be dealing with some swells for that, but not till later. If we look at the surf line, we can see right now that the swell coming into the southeast coast is primarily from that east-northeast or northeast wedge, right? And that residual build is going to stick around but slowly bleed off over the next couple of days as we get into Friday night. And then really there's just nothing from anything tropical out there. That whatever residual swell is going to be there is going to be from the east-southeast, and it's going to be maintaining right around 3 feet or so. So that's going to be the forecast. I'll have this posted right after it's finished uploading to YouTube, and I'll put it on the CORA website, and you can watch it there. But for everybody attending the Skippers meeting tomorrow night, I will see you there. I'll have a final forecast. And everybody, thanks for watching, and take care. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.